happy full moon in Aries. She is the warrioress within you. And of course, that means we're talking about the warrioress of the heart warrioress. The moon is always calling us back into our wholeness and our fullness. She asks us, where are you closing off to any part of yourself? Where are you disowning any part of yourself? And this full moon asks us, where are we disowning our own sacred, divine, masculine essence? As we saw with Libra, we halfway through the zodiac with Libra, we hit the epitomal feminine planet. We hit Libra ruled by Venus. And her counterpart, her sacred beloved, is of course Aries. Venus's counterpart is Mars. So Aries is ruled by Mars, which is the planet of the masculine. Aries starts off the zodiac. It is number one in the first house, and it is the baby of the zodiac. And it is like, let's do this. It is the seed of the zodiac. It is like the most little baby, bursting into life with all of her fire energy. So I say her, but really there's no way to get around the masculine essence of this planet Mars and of his corresponding zodiac sign of Aries. The essence, the glyph of Aries is the sprout. So it is that energy of like, let's do this. Let's start this whole show that is life, that is the zodiac, this whole wheel of life. Let's get it going. Now, of course, because that early portion of the zodiac is the essence of me. It's like the beginning of the zodiac is like me. And then as you move through the zodiac, we start to get into like we, relationship. And then we start to get into like the big we, like the capital we, which is like the collective, the community, until we end the zodiac with Pisces right before Aries starts us back over. We're reborn again into the year. Pisces is like the we, like the universal we, like the all we, like the universe, you know? But Aries is me. I am. I want. I want this. I want to make this happen. So that energy corresponds to the ego itself. And it's so important to just call out that the ego gets such a bad name. And that is such a, it makes sense, rightly so. The ego is the created self. It is a delusional piece of us that confuses the whole for the part. It confuses the whole for the part. It is the part of us that is actually conditioned by the past, so has a very limited view of what is possible in our future. And its desire is to control in order to keep us safe. We've said this multiple times throughout the year. But the ego has a really important role, and that is to, we couldn't function without the ego. We wouldn't be in this human society, with all of this communication and technology if we didn't have a way of discerning between me and you. And while I would love to be in circle with you and to feel physically how connected we are as sisters, as you share your journey, I share my journey, what a powerful spiritual moment when we're together in that union. But we also need that fire of the me. So in order to talk about the sacred warrioress, we need to dive into the difference between the hero's journey and the heroine's journey. The hero's journey is what we hear about so often. Originally coined by Joseph Campbell, our amazing mythologist, he identified this way that the story arc of the major modern, and by modern I mean patriarchal myths, go through this path of facing external conflict and maybe slaying the dragon or like fighting the demon, and then coming back into resolution and returning in the external world back to the community as a changed person with greater power, knowledge, and social status. This is the hero's journey. Now, the heroine's journey is very different. Identified by Maureen Murdoch in the heroine's journey, she identified really like this very different experience that women have. That is, instead of this big like external conquering of the obstacle and coming into social power and success and being acknowledged in this external way, the feminine journey is actually this internal journey where even when we face external challenges, it's really ultimately our own projections of our internal, the places we've closed off to love, right? Our internal grappling with our ego, our internal grappling with the feminine herself. So living in a world where the feminine is not celebrated or acknowledged or valued, the first step of the heroine's journey is to disown the feminine, is to identify with masculine traits and to get disconnected from the mother, to get disconnected from the feminine, and to really just go on that masculine path until we reach a point where there's just too much pain and suffering because we are identified with the masculine and we are caught up in the ego of the cultural trance of the overculture, which is a patriarchal masculine overculture, and it is so uncomfortable for the feminine to remain in that space that we have really particularly, I mean, not just in patriarchal times, but like really in the last, like, blessed, beautiful modern feminism, but it has dropped us into this man's world, competing in a man's world, as opposed to recrafting and recreating the structures through the feminine, which is what is happening now, right? With the awakening of the divine feminine. But this is our own mass cultural heroine's journey, is that we had to be like, oh, we want power. Power in the world means like we look like a man, we carry a sword, and we like sit at the front of the CEO like table, which it certainly can, and it will make, ultimately it will make women ill. It will make women sick, physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, because we are not competing on the same level with men. Like, we have very different physiological symptoms, physiological systems that are actually designed for moments of deep rest and reverence. We are not like a 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, like pump it out or more for most women. We do need to rest and revitalize and rejuvenate in a way that men's physiology is not ever going to understand. So back to the heroine's journey. It is really this internal journey of actually reclaiming our feminine qualities and traits of sensuality, our womb wisdom, our inherent embodied magic. Literally, the heroine's journey is about reclaiming our magic. And the ultimate resolution is this integration of the masculine and feminine within us that leads to healthier relationships and wholeness and peace inside of ourselves. So how different is that from the hero's journey? And that doesn't mean, of course, like this is talking about the heroine's journey inside of men, inside of women, inside of all genders, right? We can all go on the hero's journey. We can all go on the heroine's journey. But when we're talking about Aries warrioress energy, we want to be really clear that we are not trying to create more war. We are not trying to wield our sword to hurt other people. And when we're talking about the feminine warrioress, we are talking about What is it to be in union with our divine inner masculine, he who supports, protects, and provides for us, who makes sure that we are safe so that we can be in our feminine magic. Now, in the modern day and age, that tends to literally mean that we are providing for ourselves. For many of us women, that will mean we are providing for our own food, we are providing for our own money, we are providing for our own safety and shelter. That may or may not be your circumstance and your partnership, but that's kind of like the present cultural status quo. We worked fucking hard to get out into the workforce, right? And now we're here, and many of us are actually sick as a result, and we can keep going for a while, right? But culturally, we are reaching a point when we need to recontextualize where we're at with the masculine sword. So yes, it is imperative that our masculine sword of the warrior is this way that we show up for our sacred boundaries, that we say a sacred no, that we stand up for our truth and what is right, that we speak up, that we speak out, that we are able to show up in our full strength and power. And at the same time, I do feel like we're in a transition culturally where we are, we've really had to like don this like warrior, sword-bearing, masculine persona in order to make it in this world. And as women encountering the medicine of Aries, the medicine of the divine masculine within us, it's imperative that we ask, how are we using our sword? So the sword is the sword of discernment. It is the sword of truth. It is the sword of our own sacred life force. And when we have that sacred sword of our life force, it is informed by our intuition. So the hand holds the sword, and the sword and the arm emanates from the heart. So the sword comes as a tool of the heart, that we stand up for truth. We stand up for what really is the role of the sacred masculine. It is to stand up for what is sacred, what is precious, what is pure, and what is innocent. This is the energy of the protector and protectress inside of us that is the warrioress, that is Aries. But when we don't have connection to that divine masculine within us, to our capacity to create, to calm our nervous system, to create sacred space around our self-care, then we drop into armor. We drop into the armor of the warrior instead of the vulnerable heart of the warrioress. And that armor is the ways that we shut down. It is the ways that we, when we don't trust our own boundaries and discernment and self-preservation, we use armor and avoidance as a boundary instead of expressing truth. And this armor hardens our heart and really kills our feminine life force. It is the opposite of feminine power that is rooted. Our feminine power is rooted in our eros. It is rooted in our erotic openness to life. It is rooted in our willingness to be in our heart, to feel our emotions, to feel sensuality, which is not an easy task in this day and age, in this world. So it is a balance of holding the divine feminine within us and the divine masculine within us, and allowing that part of ourselves to show up to our job, to protect ourselves and create the sacred boundaries in our full schedules, while also, instead of armoring, really trusting that force to be rooted in our feminine, to be rooted in our intuition. So instead of armoring, we want to be open to life. And this makes us open to God, right? Like open to talking about the divine masculine as the goddess, who is the descended earth body, the form of the descended underworld journey through which we rise into our power. And then God, like the infinite expanded consciousness of the universe. May we, through our heroine's journey of self-revelation, may we come to be vessels for God himself, for the divine masculine that is the intelligence of unified consciousness. And may we do that through our feminine Eros, our feminine dance, our feminine Venus, our feminine Libra essence. Of course, Aries pairs with Libra, Mars pairs with Venus. They cannot be separated from each other. So as we talk about our sacred warrioress of the heart, we want to be always tuning back into what is he serving within us? What is our sacred no, our sacred boundaries serving? Now, the last piece of the heroine's journey is to really acknowledge that the hero, and is to acknowledge that the dragon herself has always been a symbol for the divine feminine, the earth goddess, the feminine energy of nature. It is one of the oldest symbols on the planet. The Ouroboros, the snake, the dragon, she is the regenerative power of the cycles of nature and the regenerative power of the cycle of the moon that dies and is reborn and resurrects into her fullness and descends back again into the underworld. So the dragon is the feminine, and it is only with the rise of patriarchy that we see stories and myths of the dragon being dominated by men, dominated by warriors. So the slaying of the dragon is part of the narrative of the hero's journey, but the feminine warrioress does not slay the dragon. She does not slay her inner wounded child that is just calling out for her attention so she can grow and expand and like thrive and be a leader and change the world forever from global war to global harmony. It happens through every woman, through every one of us. Instead of slaying the dragon, which is to slay the feminine, so just notice it in all the films and all the things, notice it. Instead, the feminine rides the dragon. She learns to cultivate her emotional alchemy so that she can, instead of judging those parts of her that are wounded, those parts of her that are lost in perfection or overdoing or lost in self-judgment, she learns to alchemize those places by honoring her wounds, honoring her inner child, loving and seeing that part of ourselves, and liberating that stuck, blocked energy within us so that there is a freedom and a flow of Shakti, of life force, of prana. And this is how we are changing the world, sisters. You and I together. This is how the divine feminine rises. She is the dragon, and we can see through the obsession with dragons, and even in the House of the Dragon series and the Game of Thrones series, it's like the women are, House of Dragons especially, it's like the women are riding the dragons. Like the women are like predominantly the dragon riders. Like that is such a piece of the feminine energy, is like we are reviving the snake. We are reviving the dragon, not slaying the dragon with our potent Aries inner heart warrioress. So many full moon blessings to you on this beautiful full moon, honoring our sacred masculine and honoring the sacred masculine around us. So I love all our talk about the goddess always, but let's remember, we're not trying to like create a matriarchy. We're trying to we aren't just trying, we're doing it. We're uniting the masculine and feminine. We are integrating God and goddess. And we can honor and acknowledge and see that not only in ourselves and in the beautiful women around us who are providing for themselves in such beautiful ways and for their emotional health, but in the men. So let's close with that, is may we honor the divine masculine as God. May we honor the divine masculine within ourselves by bearing our sword, but making sure the sword is always rooted in our heart. And may we honor the divine masculine in the men around us. This is how we are coming into a full spectrum healing and integration of the masculine and feminine, is by not putting down the masculine, not blaming men for where we are on this planet, but to integrate our own masculine and to see the God in the men around us and to honor them and to thank them for the ways they do serve us so that they can show up even deeper in their divine masculine, to serve and honor their own divine feminine, and to serve and honor us, and to serve and honor the divine feminine on this planet, which is nature. So many blessings. Mwah.